This is no longer about healthcare. This is about life and death. Schumer's words cut through the tension in the room like a knife. The audience is frozen. A wave of disbelief ripples through the packed auditorium, a collective gasp filling the air. He's done it now. Schumer has just escalated the stakes beyond policy, beyond politics. This isn't a debate about numbers and bureaucracy. This is about human lives, about families struggling to survive, about the soul of a nation itself. Across the stage, Lindsey Graham's face tightens with fury. His lips curl into a sneer, his body stiffening with controlled rage. The camera zooms in, catching the flicker of sweat on his brow, the twitch of his hand as if he's holding himself back from lashing out. The room holds its breath. The clock ticks. This is the moment of reckoning. Schumer stands tall, calm, his voice steady but carrying the weight of years of frustration. For years, you've talked about freedom, he continues, his eyes never leaving Graham's. But your policies don't set anyone free. They chain people to their debt, their sickness, and their fear. That's not freedom. That's tyranny. Graham opens his mouth, but no words come out immediately. The tension is palpable. He's been outmaneuvered, cornered. The crowd murmurs, and the air hums with anticipation. How will he respond to this? The audience can feel it, this isn't just a policy clash anymore. This is personal. This is the fight for who gets to live and who gets left behind. In the midst of the charged silence, Graham's eyes narrow. His voice finally breaks through, but it's sharp, dripping with contempt. You don't get to lecture me on freedom, Chuck. You've been selling out Americans for decades. His words slice through the room, aiming to incite, to retaliate. The room is on edge. The audience is waiting for the next move, knowing this is just the beginning of a battle that will redefine the political landscape. What happens next will shake the entire country. But what happens next leaves the entire country in disbelief. Across the room, the opposing senators know that this is bigger than any typical political debate. This is about the very future of America's healthcare system, and its citizens' ability to survive. Schumer's words still hang in the air, echoing like a judgment that cannot be ignored. Healthcare is not a distant, abstract issue anymore. It's the very fabric of American life, tangled up in the struggle of millions to hold on to their dignity, their health, and their futures. In cities from New York to Fresno, families are suffocating under the weight of sky-high premiums, unexpected medical bills, and prescription drug costs that drain their bank accounts faster than they can refill them. Imagine a mother of 3, watching her kids grow up knowing that if one of them gets sick, she might have to choose between food or a doctor. Imagine the elderly man in Miami, retired and on a fixed income, wondering if he can afford his insulin for the month, or if that might just be the end for him. These aren't just statistics. These are the faces of America. These are the lives Schumer is fighting for. These are the lives that Graham's policies threaten to ruin. For every American with a chronic illness, every single parent struggling to make ends meet, the debate happening on this stage today isn't a matter of political games. It's about whether or not they'll get to see another year of their life, whether their children will have the chance to grow up healthy or if their dreams will be dashed because of a lack of access to basic healthcare. The stakes have never been higher. Graham, ever the pragmatist, sees healthcare as a cost, a price to be minimized, a burden to be shifted. He talks of free market solutions, of deregulation, of corporate-backed plans designed to cut costs. But in doing so, he ignores the human toll. He ignores the fact that the market isn't the answer when it comes to life and death. The system he advocates for hasn't worked. It's left too many people behind, suffering in silence, their voices drowned out by the political elite. But Schumer isn't going to let that happen. He's fought too long, and too hard, for the very people Graham dismisses as collateral damage. This isn't just about votes, about party lines. This is personal. Schumer has heard the stories. He's been to the town halls. He's sat in living rooms where parents have wept, helpless in the face of a broken system. And that is exactly what he's up against, a system that doesn't care about the people it's supposed to serve. You want to talk about freedom, Lindsey? Schumer's voice rings out, calm but resolute. What freedom do we have when the only way to survive is by living in fear of an illness that could bankrupt us tomorrow? The words resonate in the room. The audience knows. This is a fight for something bigger than policy. This is about a vision of America, a vision where healthcare is a right, not a luxury. It's a vision that Schumer believes in, that he's ready to fight for, no matter what it costs. And as the debate continues, the tension rises, the clock ticking down toward the moment when Schumer will make his next move. But it's not just the policy that will shape this moment, it's the men behind the words. And the real question is, who will prevail? Lindsey Graham has made a career out of presenting himself as a defender of the American worker, the type of politician who sits with the everyday man at the local diner, listens to their struggles, and vows to fix Washington's broken system. His carefully crafted image of an everyman, hailing from a small town, serving in the military, speaking in folksy, relatable terms, has won him support across the South and beyond. But like most carefully constructed facades, the truth beneath is far more complicated, and far more dangerous. For all his talk of standing up for the American worker, Graham's record paints a different picture. When it comes to healthcare, Graham has never been on the side of the people. Instead, he's repeatedly sided with the wealthy, the powerful, and the corporations that have seen healthcare not as a right, but as a lucrative business venture. His approach to government is rooted in an ideology that favors deregulation, free market solutions, and a belief that if you want healthcare, you should be able to afford it, period. He's made it clear, government-run healthcare is anathema to his worldview. To Graham, the very notion of a public option or universal healthcare is a slippery slope, a path that leads directly to socialism. He argues that expanding access to healthcare would stifle innovation, limit choice, and bankrupt the nation. What he doesn't say is that this innovation he's so fond of often benefits the pharmaceutical and insurance companies, companies that have poured millions into his campaign coffers. It's no coincidence that he's been one of the most vocal advocates against healthcare reform, championing policies that protect these same corporate interests. There's a contradiction here, one that can't be ignored. On one hand, Graham frequently touts his deep love for the American worker, his devotion to the people he claims to represent. He speaks of hardworking families in South Carolina, the farmers, the factory workers, the service employees who he says deserve more than what the government gives them. On the other hand, his voting record tells a story of siding with the very forces that have made it harder for these families to thrive, forces like the insurance lobby, the pharmaceutical giants, and the healthcare executives who drive up prices while reaping massive profits. Graham's rhetoric about limited government falls flat when you consider the irony of his reliance on corporate money to fund his campaigns. When healthcare CEOs are showering him with donations, does he really have the best interests of the middle class at heart? Does he truly care about the families scraping by, working 2 jobs just to afford basic care? Or is his allegiance tied to the ones who can fund his re-election campaigns and ensure that healthcare remains a business, not a human right? It's this irony that makes Graham a dangerous adversary. He's willing to make sweeping statements about fiscal responsibility and limited government, but when it comes to the policies he champions, it's clear, those policies don't protect the American people, they protect the powerful. His healthcare vision is a market-driven one, where access to treatment is determined by your income, where insurance companies hold all the cards, and where the very idea of affordable care for all is considered an unacceptable burden on business. And then there's the message Graham sends every time he dismisses concerns about access to care. He speaks with venom about government overreach, but has no qualms about the fact that the real overreach comes from the very industries that profit off the misery of the uninsured. His solution? More deregulation, more tax breaks for the rich, and less oversight on the health insurance and pharmaceutical industries that have no real incentive to lower prices. In his world, people are left to fend for themselves in a system that rewards the wealthy and leaves everyone else behind. But for all his smarts and his political maneuvering, Graham's true self is beginning to slip through the cracks. His disdain for healthcare reform, his refusal to even acknowledge the systemic problems plaguing the country, has started to turn the very people he claims to defend against him. When he stands on that debate stage, railing against Schumer's plan, it's not just about ideology anymore. It's personal. It's about the protection of a broken system that has served him well but continues to fail millions of Americans. As the stakes rise and the cameras zoom in on Graham's face, it's clear that he's fighting not just for policy, but for his own political survival. His once untouchable image of the man who fights for the common man is cracking. The truth is harder to ignore now, and more people are seeing through his carefully constructed persona. But there's a reason Schumer has been waiting for this moment. He's not just fighting for policy. He's fighting for the people. For Chuck Schumer, healthcare has never been just a political issue. It's personal. Growing up in Brooklyn, he learned early on that a broken system doesn't just affect the poor or the disenfranchised, it affects everyone. He remembers the days when his mother, a schoolteacher, would spend sleepless nights worrying about medical bills. He'd watch her hands tremble as she opened envelopes marked urgent, each one a reminder of just how vulnerable they were. The system that was supposed to help people, to protect them in their time of need, instead seemed intent on punishing them for falling ill or needing care. When Schumer was in his early 20s, his family faced a moment that would shape his future. His father, who had spent years working long hours as a small business owner, was diagnosed with cancer. The medical bills quickly spiraled out of control. For months, Schumer watched as his parents tried to navigate the maze of insurance companies, trying to make sense of their policy only to be told time and time again that certain treatments weren't covered. Every day, his father grew weaker, but the system around them seemed to grow colder. Schumer saw the devastation up close, the way families could be torn apart, not just by illness, but by the fear of not being able to afford care. That experience changed Schumer forever. It made him realize something crucial: healthcare isn't a luxury. It's a right, and it's one that should never be dictated by your income, your status, or your connections. No one should have to choose between saving their life and losing their home. No one should have to bear the weight of a broken system that profits off their sickness and suffering. From that moment, Schumer's path became clear. He wasn't going to be a politician who stayed on the sidelines, simply debating in theoretical terms. He was going to be the one who pushed for change, who fought to make sure that no family would ever have to experience what his did. His commitment to healthcare reform became his driving force, the reason he went into public service in the first place. He entered politics with one goal: to build a system that would protect the American people, no matter who they were or where they came from. As a young senator, Schumer fought hard to expand access to healthcare, supporting measures that would help the uninsured, the underinsured, and the forgotten. He stood by the Affordable Care Act, advocating for more subsidies and protections for the most vulnerable. And when it became clear that the system still wasn't working for everyone, Schumer became one of the loudest voices in favor of a public option, something that would ensure that no one had to rely on the private insurance market to get the care they needed. He wasn't doing it for the headlines or the political points. He was doing it because he knew what it was like to feel helpless in the face of illness, to have someone you love suffer because they couldn't afford the care they needed. Unlike Graham, Schumer wasn't interested in appeasing corporate donors or making backroom deals with insurance lobbyists. His focus was on the people. When he speaks about healthcare, it's not with the passion of a firebrand looking for a fight, it's with the quiet resolve of a man who has seen too many people suffer because of a system that prioritizes profits over lives. He's calm, measured, and methodical in his approach, always thinking one step ahead, always focused on the long-term impact of every decision. It's not about the politics for Schumer, it's about making sure that, one day, no child will grow up wondering if their parents' healthcare costs will destroy their family. The contrast between Schumer's approach and Graham's couldn't be more stark. While Graham plays to the crowd, with fiery speeches and inflammatory rhetoric, Schumer's strength lies in his calm demeanor and his ability to stay focused on the issue at hand. He's not interested in winning a debate for the sake of winning. He's interested in winning for the American people. That's what makes him dangerous to his opponents. He isn't just a politician looking for a victory. He's a man with a mission that he's been on for decades. Schumer understands the stakes, and he knows that he's up against a system that has been rigged in favor of the wealthy and powerful for too long. He's fought for years to reform healthcare, pushing back against powerful lobbyists, corporate giants, and even members of his own party who didn't want to rock the boat. But Schumer doesn't back down, no matter how tough the fight gets. He fights for the people who need him, the ones who can't afford to wait any longer for change. Every bill he introduces, every policy he advocates for, is a direct reflection of the values that guide him: compassion, fairness, and the belief that no one should ever be left behind. Healthcare isn't a partisan issue for Schumer, it's a human issue. And when he speaks about it, his voice carries the weight of every person who's ever been forced to make a difficult decision between their health and their livelihood. But in the next moment, Schumer will unleash a statement that flips the entire debate on its head. The room is charged with tension. The debate has shifted from a series of measured statements to a full-throttle war of words. Lindsey Graham leans forward, his eyes flashing with anger, the veins in his neck pulsing with the heat of his attack. His voice cracks the air, sharp and unforgiving. "Let's be honest here, Chuck," Graham spits, each word dripping with disdain. "You're not interested in healthcare reform. You're interested in political power, and you'll say anything to keep the left's agenda alive. You're using people's lives as pawns in your game. That's not leadership, that's manipulation." The room collectively holds its breath. The shot is direct, cutting through Schumer's calm demeanor like a blade. For a moment, Schumer's expression doesn't change, he simply watches Graham, his face a mask of stoic determination. The crowd is waiting, leaning in for the retaliation, but Schumer isn't in a hurry. He's been through these moments before. Graham's words echo in the room, a call to arms against the big government policies Schumer champions. The senator from South Carolina paces, trying to provoke Schumer, trying to get under his skin. His face flushes as he raises his voice even higher. "People are tired, Chuck. They don't want your handouts. They want freedom. They want a system where they don't have to depend on the government for everything. And you're over here, pretending like your healthcare plan is some kind of savior. It's not. It's a disaster." The crowd murmurs, some nodding in agreement with Graham's fiery words. The tension in the room thickens, the heat rising as emotions flare on both sides. But Schumer doesn't flinch. He's been waiting for this moment, prepared to face the onslaught with the quiet confidence of a man who knows his truth will carry the day. As Graham's rhetoric continues, Schumer remains unmoved, his posture straight, his eyes locked on his opponent. He doesn't take the bait. His response is measured, deliberate, as if he's carefully considering every word before he speaks. And then, when the moment is right, he calmly lays the truth bare for everyone to hear. "You can shout all you want, Lindsey," Schumer says, his voice cool but cutting. "But your policies are hurting Americans. And it's time to face the truth." His words fall into the silence like a heavy weight. There's a pause, a stillness in the air that feels almost like the calm before a storm. The audience is waiting for Graham's retort, but Schumer isn't finished. His eyes never leave Graham's. He continues, his voice firm and unwavering. "You stand there and talk about freedom, but what kind of freedom are we giving people when their healthcare costs are so high they can't feed their children? When a single illness can bankrupt a family, ruin their lives?" Schumer's words hit with precision, each syllable underscored with years of frustration. "The only freedom you're offering is the freedom to suffer. And I won't stand for that." The room erupts into a wave of applause, some of it hesitant, some of it thunderous. Graham's face hardens, his smile fading as Schumer's words reverberate through the air. He's rattled, his composure slipping for just a second. Schumer is tapping into something deeper than policy. He's tapping into the emotional core of the debate. The lives of real people, the families, the children, the elderly, the workers, all of them are caught in the crossfire. Graham, for all his fiery rhetoric, has never made that connection. But Graham isn't done yet. He leans forward again, his voice rising as he tries to regain control of the narrative. He points a finger at Schumer, accusing him of being out of touch with reality. "You think your government-run healthcare is the answer to everything," Graham sneers. "But what you don't see is the wreckage it leaves behind. The taxes. The bureaucracy. The lines at hospitals. You want a system that holds us all hostage, Chuck. And that's not freedom. That's tyranny." His words hang in the air, challenging Schumer's vision of what America should be. But Schumer doesn't bite. He remains calm, unshaken, and as Graham's fiery words fade into the background, Schumer takes a slow breath, preparing to make his next move. His gaze never wavers. "The wreckage," Schumer says softly, his voice carrying over the now quiet room, "is in the lives of the people you're leaving behind. The people who can't afford treatment, the people who are being denied care because their insurance won't cover it. The wreckage is the system you're protecting. The wreckage is a government that lets corporations profit off of human suffering." Graham's anger flares again, but this time, he's losing control. He's starting to realize that Schumer isn't going to back down. He's playing a different game. The firebrand's rhetoric is no longer enough to win the debate. The contrast between them couldn't be clearer. Graham, the agitated defender of the wealthy, flailing with aggressive accusations. Schumer, the calm architect of change, cutting through the chaos with the force of truth. And just as it looks like Graham is about to land a fatal blow, Schumer delivers the mic drop moment that no one saw coming. The room is thick with tension, the atmosphere so charged it feels as though a storm is about to break. For a moment, the debate is suspended in the space between Graham's words and Schumer's response. But Schumer isn't in a rush. He's studied every angle of this fight, and he knows exactly what needs to be said to dismantle Graham's arguments, not with bluster or anger, but with clarity, truth, and the force of real-world experience. Graham's voice is still ringing in the air, but Schumer is calm. He leans forward slightly, his eyes locked on Graham's, his posture unshaken. The audience holds its breath, sensing that the tide of this battle is about to shift. Schumer speaks slowly, deliberately, each word cutting through the chaos with surgical precision. "You talk about freedom, Lindsey," Schumer says, his voice steady but packed with a quiet intensity. "But what about the freedom to survive? What about the freedom to get care when you need it, not when your insurance company decides to allow it?" The room falls silent. It's as if every person in that auditorium is holding their breath, waiting for the gravity of Schumer's words to sink in. His question hangs in the air, a challenge that no one can ignore. Schumer doesn't wait for a response. Instead, he continues, each word dropping like a hammer. "You've built your entire argument around the idea that Americans are best left to fend for themselves. But here's the truth, Lindsey, when people are sick, when their children are sick, they don't have the luxury of waiting for the free market to work. They need care, right now. And your so-called freedom means nothing if people can't access the healthcare they need to survive." A murmur runs through the crowd. Schumer's words are beginning to resonate, touching a raw nerve that no one in the room can deny. He's no longer just arguing policy. He's speaking to the real-life consequences of Graham's stance. He's speaking for the millions of Americans who've been left to suffer in a system that values profit over people. Schumer takes a deep breath, his gaze never leaving Graham's. "You claim to care about freedom, but what you really care about is protecting the profits of the health insurance companies. You stand there and pretend like these corporations are the ones who'll save America, when all they've ever done is make healthcare a commodity that's only available to those who can afford it. And let's not forget, those same companies are funding your campaign. They're the ones filling your pockets while you stand here, telling the American people they should just deal with it." The room is starting to shift. Schumer's words are cutting through the noise, striking at the heart of Graham's argument. The contrast between the two men has never been clearer. Graham, with his rhetoric of freedom and corporate loyalty, is now being exposed for what he truly represents, a system that benefits the few and leaves the many behind. Schumer pauses for a moment, letting his words hang in the air, and then he strikes again. This isn't about freedom, Lindsey. It's about control. It's about who gets to decide who lives and who dies. And right now, it's not the American people making that decision. It's the CEOs in their ivory towers. And that's not a system I'm willing to support. The crowd is beginning to stir, murmuring in disbelief, in agreement, in shock. Some are nodding along, others shaking their heads in astonishment. But one thing is clear, Schumer has made his point, and there's no turning back now. He's pulled the rug out from under Graham's entire platform. The applause begins to swell, tentative at first, then growing in volume as more and more people realize what just happened. The momentum has shifted decisively in Schumer's favor. Graham's face is tight, his lips pulled into a thin line. His earlier confidence is evaporating. The mask of the firebrand, the man who can control the narrative with his loud, aggressive attacks, is starting to crack. Schumer's calm, methodical approach has exposed the weakness in Graham's rhetoric, and there's no denying it now. The room may be divided, but Schumer has planted the seed of doubt in Graham's supporters. They're beginning to question the very foundation of Graham's argument. But Schumer isn't done yet. He's been waiting for this moment his entire career, and he knows that the real fight isn't over until the message has been delivered in full. Let's talk about reality, Lindsey, Schumer says, his voice unwavering. In the real world, people don't have the luxury of waiting for the market to fix things. They can't afford to wait until the insurance companies decide they've made enough profit to offer care. Every day, people are forced to choose between getting the care they need and going bankrupt. Families are being ripped apart. I've seen it firsthand, in every town hall, in every community I've visited. Schumer's words are no longer just abstract arguments, they're personal, they're visceral. He's tapping into the stories of the people he's met, the faces of the parents, the children, the elderly who have suffered because of the broken system Graham champions. The truth is, Lindsey, Schumer continues, his voice softer now but no less powerful, you don't get to claim you care about freedom while you defend a system that locks people out of their right to survive. You don't get to talk about liberty while defending the corporate interests that profit off the pain of millions of Americans. The crowd is reacting now, with applause, cheers, even shouts of agreement. Schumer has taken the high ground and hasn't let go. He's not just speaking to Graham anymore, he's speaking to the nation. And with every word, he's driving the final nail into the coffin of Graham's argument. Graham stumbles. For the first time in this debate, his words falter, his voice shaking slightly as he tries to respond. The confidence he once had is slipping, replaced by a growing sense of vulnerability. The man who once prided himself on his ability to control the room is losing his grip. Before he can recover, the nation reacts. Social media explodes. Tweets, posts, and comments flood in from every corner of the country, praising Schumer's performance, condemning Graham's stance, and declaring that the debate has changed everything. The shockwaves are immediate and powerful. The battle over healthcare is no longer just a political fight, it's a cultural one, with Schumer emerging as the champion of the people. The aftermath is nothing short of explosive. Within minutes of the debate's conclusion, the internet is ablaze. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, every platform is buzzing with reactions from people across the nation. The shockwaves from Schumer's takedown of Graham ripple outward, sending tremors through the political landscape. Hashtags like #SchumerOwnsGraham and #HealthcareForAll trend at the top of Twitter, with users from all walks of life weighing in on the heated confrontation. Schumer just destroyed Graham, one tweet reads, accompanied by a clip of Schumer's searing rebuttal. It's a simple message, but the impact is undeniable. Another tweet follows, this debate changes everything. Schumer just flipped the script on Graham's healthcare agenda. The retweets flood in at an unprecedented rate, the commentary escalating with each passing second. Celebrities, always quick to voice their opinions on social issues, weigh in with their own takes. Actress and activist Maya Rivera tweets, finally, someone is standing up for the people. #HealthcareForAll, within minutes, it garners thousands of likes, shares, and comments. Influencers who've been watching the debate unfold from their living rooms tweet their own reactions. If you missed Schumer's mic drop moment, you missed history, writes one influencer, posting a clip that has already been viewed over 1 million times. Political pundits, too, jump into the fray. On cable news, the debate is the lead story, with commentators from across the spectrum dissecting the moment. CNN's political analyst, Jordan Carter, weighs in, Schumer's calm, calculated response to Graham's fiery rhetoric was a game-changer. For the first time in a long time, it feels like someone is fighting for the people. On the opposite end, conservative commentators like Dan Mitchell on Fox News attack Schumer's remarks, but their criticisms fall flat in the face of the overwhelming social media support Schumer is receiving. But it's not just the political elite that's reacting. Ordinary citizens across the country join the conversation. From small towns to big cities, from coast to coast, people are taking to their phones and computers to voice their opinions. In Michigan, a single mother of 2 tweets, "I've been struggling to pay for my kids' healthcare, and today, Schumer spoke for me." It's about time someone in politics actually understood the struggle. In Los Angeles, a 72-year-old retiree posts, "I've been paying into Medicare for decades, and I'll be damned if I let Graham take it all away. Schumer's got my vote." The social media frenzy is compounded by the constant stream of memes, GIFs, and viral clips circulating online. Memes showing Schumer's calm, measured demeanor next to Graham's flailing, frustrated reactions quickly go viral. One particularly biting meme shows Graham's face, furrowed with anger, and the text reads, "When your corporate donors can't save you anymore." The ripple effect of Schumer's performance is felt beyond just the debate. Healthcare advocacy groups, emboldened by his words, begin organizing in real time. In less than an hour, #HealthcareForAll is trending worldwide, and grassroots organizations are flooded with new sign-ups, eager to be part of the movement that Schumer's words have ignited. Political rallies are scheduled within days in cities like Philadelphia, Chicago, and Denver, where the fight for universal healthcare takes center stage. Within hours, social media platforms are brimming with stories of people sharing their personal healthcare struggles. A father in Texas writes, "My son has leukemia, and without insurance, we'd be bankrupt." Schumer's right, "Our system is broken. We need change now." The #HealthcareForAll becomes more than a slogan, it's a battle cry for reform. People who've long been silenced by the system now have a voice, and they're using it to rally behind Schumer's message. By the evening news cycle, the debate is still the top story. The conversation shifts from the content of the debate itself to its implications for the future of healthcare reform. Analysts on MSNBC speculate about the political fallout. Schumer's performance today was a masterclass in politics, one host says. But what happens next? Will this moment galvanize the progressive wing of the party? Will it force moderates to finally take a stand on healthcare? The question is being asked by everyone, from the White House to the grassroots level. In Washington, the reaction is swift. Senators from both parties begin publicly aligning themselves with Schumer's position. Today, we witnessed the defining moment of this healthcare debate, says Senator Maria Jackson of California, a leading voice in the progressive wing. Chuck Schumer showed us what it means to fight for the people. Meanwhile, conservative members of Congress are on the defensive. Senator Ted Cruz, one of Graham's closest allies, holds a press conference in which he denounces Schumer's speech as grandstanding, but his words seem hollow in comparison to the groundswell of support Schumer is receiving. Behind closed doors, Graham himself is reportedly furious. His plan to dominate the healthcare conversation has backfired spectacularly, leaving him struggling to regain control. Even the White House has to respond. President Andrew Stevens, who had been hesitant to take a firm stance on the healthcare debate, releases a statement praising Schumer's leadership. "I admire Senator Schumer for standing up for the American people," the statement reads. "The conversation about healthcare is long overdue, and it's time we prioritize the health of every citizen over corporate profits." Across America, political observers are asking the same question: how will this moment reshape the political future? Schumer has turned the debate from a policy discussion into a moral imperative, putting Graham, and the system he defends, on the defensive. The debate has become more than just an argument about healthcare, it's a defining battle over the future of the American people. But the real question remains, what will happen next? How will this moment shift the political landscape? As the dust settles from the explosive debate, it's clear, the clash between Schumer and Graham wasn't just about healthcare policy, it was about something much deeper. It was about values. It was about the kind of country we want to be. Schumer's words have resonated across the nation, pushing us to confront the very real consequences of a broken healthcare system that has left too many behind. This debate has made it crystal clear that healthcare isn't just a political issue, it's a moral issue. It's about dignity, justice, and the right of every person to live a healthy life, free from the crushing fear of unaffordable medical bills. Schumer's stand for the people, his refusal to back down in the face of corporate interests, has shown us the kind of leadership we need. But this is only the beginning. The fight for healthcare is far from over, and it's up to each and every one of us to continue pushing for change. We've seen the stakes. We've seen what's at risk. Now, we must act. Schumer and Graham's clash isn't just a debate, it's a reflection of who we are as a nation. It's time to stand up for what's right. Share this video if you believe healthcare is a right, not a privilege. Let the world know that we won't settle for a system that leaves people behind. If you're inspired by what you've seen, subscribe for more content like this. These battles are far from over, and we need to keep raising our voices, fighting for justice, and making sure the people's voice is heard. Together, we can make a difference. Together, we can ensure that healthcare is something everyone can access, not just those who can afford it. The time for change is now.